We are really lucky to have vineyards across numerous AVAs in Sonoma County. Of course, we've got our two vineyards in the Russian River Valley, Slessor Road Vineyard, which is really anchored by Sauvignon Blanc, both the Clone 1 Sauvignon Blanc and Semusquet Sauvignon Blanc selection, which gives us a really pretty kind of stone fruit peach quality to blend into the classic Clone 1 Sauvignon Blanc. We also have some Chardonnay at that vineyard. At our Occidental Road vineyard, which is our original home ranch, we have Chardonnay in our back block, Clone 4 Chardonnay, and boy, it's beautiful. It's 30 years old now. I keep thinking we're gonna have to eventually rip it up and replant, but it is virus-free, disease-free. It's beautifully vigorous. It makes just gorgeous wine. So that's just a fantastic block. That's the anchor for our Chardonnay program. We also have some Pinot Noir at that ranch, which we make into Pinot Noir. That's a DTC wine. So beautiful, cool growing condition in the Russian River Valley. Fog that rolls in the mornings and then burns off at around 11 or 12 and comes back in the evening. So you get this really long growing season for those thin-skinned grape varieties, which they really like. Acidity is retained, flavors mature slowly and don't get baked out by the heat of the sun. So just ideal growing conditions in the Russian River Valley for Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, and Pinot Noir. Up in Alexander Valley, different story. 12 miles north and easily 12 degrees warmer. This is a red ranch. We have planted here primarily Cabernet, Merlot, a big chunk of Malbec, and we're playing with some Italian varieties. We've got some Nero d'Avola here at this ranch that is so much fun. We've been making it, we made our first vintage last year. Primarily a DTC wine, but really important for us in California, California wine country particularly, to adapt to hotter summers, drier summers, and try to mitigate. So we're doing that with misting, we're doing that with shade cloth, we're doing that with choosing varieties that are heat tolerant, like the Nero. So very different, clay soils here at Alexander Valley, really perfect for red wines, and then just full sun exposure and great heat. So for Cabernet, which is the last grape to harvest generally, it just gets nice consistent heat all through the season and into the fall, so that we really mitigate any herbal characters and just get this beautiful Alexander Valley black cherry and plum quality. Then up on the mountains, we have two vineyards now. Our Bismarck Ranch is on the Sonoma side of Mount Veeder in the Moon Mountain AVA, and that's a relatively new AVA that is on that Sonoma hillside facing southwest, and super exposure. But instead of clay soils like we have in Alexander Valley, we have decomposed igneous rock. It's almost like moon dust up there. So, very little topsoil. The vines really have to struggle to grow in between the rocks, and the wines are very intense as a result. We get tiny little berries, tiny clusters. These kinds of vineyards are our winemakers' holy grail, because you get wines of such intensity and with really intense terroir. And the wines are entirely different. So we grow Cabernet, all of the 5 major Bordeaux varieties up at Bismarck. And yet when you put the Alexander Valley Cab and the Bismarck Cab side by side, they're just different animals. Alexander Valley is, fruit forward, red fruit, black cherry plum. Bismarck is blackberry, black fruit, licorice, just a lovely savory quality as well. Just a really complex wine. So if we're going to make 2 Cabernets, I want to make sure that they're really different, and those certainly are. So, and then finally, my husband and I bought a beautiful ranch in Dry Creek up on Bradford Mountain a couple of years ago, and we have Sangiovese planted, at that vineyard, as well as a little Cabernet, and are gradually replanting that ranch to Italian varieties. So we have some Griot, we have some Nero d'Avola, we have some Aglianico, and we're excited. It's a 16-acre ranch, and those will primarily be DTC wines. But again, just a great living lab for us to see what works best in our new reality of climate change. What's interesting about that vineyard is it's not southwestern facing; it's eastern facing. And so there's a little less pressure on the exposure standpoint. We might lose the sun an hour earlier, and that just makes a huge difference, because the hottest part of the day here in Sonoma County, particularly in the summer and fall, is that kind of late afternoon, early evening. So we just get a little bit of reprieve from the sun up at the Dry Creek vineyard, so don't have to worry about raisening and dehydration quite as much. So it's just a stunning vineyard, again, a hillside. It was put in originally in 1991, and just has a gorgeous aspect, and we're thrilled with the wines. We just released the Sauvignon Blanc and the Cabernet, and they're fantastic. So, maybe small to medium-sized winery, but a big grower here in Sonoma County. We've got 300 acres planted across all AVAs.